Here are Grandma's 25 baking tips that no one seems to talk about. Warm bowl before creaming butter. Grandma always warmed her mixing bowl slightly before creaming butter, and her cakes were fluffier for it. Cold bowls can chill the butter too quickly, making it harder to whip air into the mixture. To do it right, fill your mixing bowl with hot water and let it sit for a minute or two, then dry it completely. Place your room temperature butter inside and begin beating. The gentle warmth helps the butter soften evenly and cream faster with sugar, producing a light, fluffy texture. This simple step ensures the butter traps air properly, which gives baked goods their tender crumb. Be careful not to overheat the bowl. It should feel pleasantly warm, not hot, to avoid melting the butter. Warming your beaters or whisk briefly under hot water also helps keep the butter mixture smooth and creates the perfect creamy base for cookies, cakes, and frostings. Grate frozen butter into dough. Did you know that grating frozen butter directly into flour gives pastries an irresistibly flaky texture? This clever trick dates back to early European bakers who wanted consistent layers without overworking the dough. Start by freezing your butter for at least 30 minutes until solid. Using a box grater, grate the butter into small, thin shreds and toss them lightly into your flour to coat each piece. The goal is to keep every shred cold and separate so it creates steam pockets as it bakes. Use a light hand when mixing to avoid melting the butter too soon. If the dough begins to soften, chill it again for 10 minutes before rolling. This method works wonders for biscuits, scones, and pie crusts. To maintain that signature flakiness, keep your tools and ingredients cold from start to finish, including your mixing bowl and rolling pin. Wrap nylon on rolling pin. Grandma had a secret for perfectly smooth, even dough. She wrapped her rolling pin in clean nylon to prevent sticking and to keep the dough's surface beautifully uniform. Cut a section of unused nylon stocking and slide it snugly over the rolling pin. The slight texture of the nylon distributes pressure evenly and reduces the need for extra flour, which can dry out dough. This technique is especially useful for pie crusts, cookies, and delicate pastries that need to stay soft and tender. After rolling, remove the nylon and rinse it under warm water so you can reuse it later. If you bake often, keep a few nylon covers handy in your kitchen drawer since they are inexpensive and durable. For sticky doughs, try dusting a small amount of powdered sugar instead of flour before rolling to maintain sweetness and prevent toughness. Store vanilla pods in sugar. Storing vanilla pods in sugar is a clever way to make every dessert more aromatic without any waste. Simply bury whole or split vanilla beans in a jar of granulated sugar, seal it tightly, and let them infuse for at least 2 weeks. The natural oils from the beans will scent the sugar, creating a subtly flavored base perfect for baking, coffee, or whipped cream. Use high-quality, moist pods for the best results since they soften and perfume the sugar deeply over time. Each time you use a pod, replace it with a new one to keep the flavor going. Shake the jar occasionally to redistribute the fragrance evenly. Vanilla sugar adds a luxurious touch to simple recipes like shortbread or custard. You can also blend a spoonful into frostings or sprinkle it over fruit tarts to enhance their aroma and sweetness naturally. Cool pastries in cracked oven. Allowing pastries to cool gradually in a cracked oven prevents sudden temperature drops that cause deflation. Once your pastries or soufflés are golden and fully baked, turn off the oven and open the door just an inch or two. Leave them inside for about 10 to 15 minutes so the heat escapes slowly. This helps delicate structures such as choux pastry or meringue-topped pies stabilize and retain their crispness. Rapid cooling can make them collapse or become soggy as steam condenses too quickly. After the initial rest, transfer them to a wire rack to finish cooling completely, allowing air to circulate evenly around them. This method also improves texture since pastries stay light and crisp instead of dense. For even better results, position the rack near the center of the oven, where residual warmth ensures gentle, consistent cooling. Tap cake pan before baking. Before sliding a cake into the oven, take a moment to tap the filled pan gently on the counter. This simple motion releases trapped air bubbles that could otherwise form uneven pockets or holes in your finished cake. Hold the pan firmly with both hands and give it 2 or 3 light taps against a flat surface. You'll notice small bubbles rising to the top, which helps the batter settle evenly. This technique also ensures that the cake bakes uniformly and rises with a smooth, even top. For dense batters like pound cake or carrot cake, tapping is especially effective at preventing hollow spots. If you see any large bubbles on the surface afterward, pop them lightly with a toothpick before baking. It's also wise to rotate your cake halfway through baking for consistent color and texture throughout. Grease and flour measuring cups. When working with sticky ingredients such as honey, syrup, or molasses, lightly greasing your measuring cups can make a big difference. A thin coating prevents thick liquids from clinging to the surface and ensures accurate measurements. Use a pastry brush or paper towel to apply a small amount of oil or non-stick spray to the inside of the cup before filling it. Pour your ingredient in, then watch it slide out effortlessly when emptied. This trick works beautifully for peanut butter and shortening as well. Cleaning becomes much easier since less residue sticks to the cup. You can also dust flour or cocoa powder inside cups before measuring wet ingredients for baking. This creates a natural release layer and prevents messy buildup. To stay organized, keep a dedicated set of greased measuring cups on hand during large baking sessions for smooth, uninterrupted preparation. Brush crusts with egg white. Grandma always brushed her pie crusts with lightly beaten egg white to give them a crisp, golden sheen. This old-fashioned trick also seals the surface, keeping fillings from soaking through the crust. To use it, separate one egg and whisk the white until slightly frothy. With a pastry brush, coat the top and edges of the unbaked crust just before placing it in the oven. For double crust pies, brush the top layer after venting for shine and structure. The protein in egg whites helps the crust brown evenly while adding a subtle crunch. You can also sprinkle a bit of sugar or coarse salt over the brushed surface for extra texture and flavor. If you want a deeper color, mix a few drops of milk into the egg white before brushing. It enhances browning and adds a beautiful bakery-style finish. Soak dried fruit in tea. Soaking dried fruit in tea adds both flavor and moisture to baked goods, like fruitcakes, muffins, and scones. Choose a strong black tea or an herbal blend that complements your recipe, such as Earl Grey or chamomile. Pour hot tea over the dried fruit in a bowl and let it sit for about 20 to 30 minutes, or until the fruit plumps up and becomes tender. Drain and pat dry before folding into your batter or dough. The natural tannins in tea deepen flavor while balancing sweetness. For extra richness, add a splash of rum or brandy to the soaking liquid once it cools. You can refrigerate leftover steeped fruit for up to 3 days to use later. Mixing tea-soaked fruit with a spoonful of flour before adding it to batter helps distribute it evenly and prevents it from sinking during baking. Lower temperature for glass pans. Glass pans retain heat longer than metal ones, which means baked goods can brown too quickly or dry out around the edges. To compensate, reduce your oven temperature by about 25 degrees Fahrenheit whenever you use a glass pan. This adjustment ensures an even bake and prevents overbrowning. Always place the pan in the center of the oven, away from direct heat sources, because glass distributes heat slowly. Avoid preheating it empty, as sudden temperature changes can cause cracking. When baking cakes or casseroles, check doneness a few minutes early by inserting a toothpick or thermometer in the center. If switching from metal to glass, expect slightly longer bake times overall. To protect delicate items like custards, set the glass pan on a baking sheet for stability and easier handling once it's hot. Cooling the pan slowly afterward also helps maintain texture and flavor. Add browned butter bits to cookies. Grandma believed that browned butter was the secret to unforgettable cookies, and she wasn't wrong. Browning butter deepens its flavor, giving baked goods a nutty, caramel-like richness that regular butter can't match. To make it, melt unsalted butter in a light-colored pan over medium heat, stirring frequently. As it cooks, the milk solids will sink and turn golden brown, releasing a toasty aroma. Once golden, pour the butter into a heat-proof bowl and let it cool slightly. Before mixing it into cookie dough, scrape every last browned bit from the bottom of the pan. That's where the flavor lives. These tiny flecks infuse the dough with an irresistible depth. Be sure to adjust the recipe slightly by reducing added sugar, as browned butter intensifies sweetness naturally. For an extra touch, chill the browned butter briefly until semi-solid so it blends evenly when creamed with sugar. Chill dense batters before baking. Thick batters such as brownie or banana bread benefit greatly from a short rest in the refrigerator before baking. Chilling allows the flour to fully hydrate and the fat to firm up, which helps the batter rise more evenly and prevents gummy centers. Cover the bowl with plastic wrap and refrigerate for 30 minutes to an hour, depending on the recipe. When ready to bake, bring the batter back toward room temperature for about 10 minutes to ensure even heat distribution. This simple step enhances flavor as well, since resting time allows sugars and aromatics to meld together. It also makes handling thick batters easier when transferring them to the pan. If you're baking drop cookies or muffin batter, use a scoop for consistent portioning after chilling. It keeps shapes uniform and ensures that each piece bakes at the same rate for perfect texture. Rub zest with sugar first. One of the simplest ways to extract maximum flavor from citrus zest is to rub it directly into sugar before adding other ingredients. The natural oils in the zest cling to the sugar crystals, releasing far more fragrance and taste than zesting alone. To do this, combine freshly grated zest with granulated sugar in a small bowl, then use your fingers to massage them together until the sugar turns slightly moist and aromatic. This infused sugar can then be used in cakes, cookies, or frostings for a bright burst of flavor. It also prevents zest from clumping during mixing. Try this method with lemon, orange, or lime depending on your recipe. If you have leftover citrus sugar, store it in an airtight jar and use it to sweeten tea or sprinkle over baked goods for a fresh, lightly perfumed finish that enhances every bite beautifully. Line tins with parchment and shortening. Lining baking tins properly prevents sticking and guarantees smooth release once your treats are done. Begin by greasing the tin lightly with shortening, then place a sheet of parchment paper inside, pressing it to adhere to the greased surface. The shortening holds the parchment in place, preventing it from curling or slipping as you fill the pan. Cut the parchment to fit snugly along the bottom and sides for clean edges. After placing the batter, run your fingers along the edges to smooth out any folds. This dual layer of protection ensures even browning and easy removal, especially for delicate cakes and bars. Always allow the baked goods to cool for 10 minutes before lifting them out by the parchment. If you bake frequently, pre-cut a stack of parchment liners for your most used pans, so lining them becomes a quick and effortless step each time. Spoon and level flour properly. Accurate flour measurement is the foundation of good baking, yet it's one of the most common mistakes people make. Scooping flour directly from the bag compacts it, often adding too much to the recipe. Instead, use a spoon to gently fill your measuring cup, allowing the flour to fall lightly without packing. Once full, level the top with a straight edge such as the back of a knife. This ensures a precise and consistent amount every time. For whole grain or specialty flours, stir them first to aerate before measuring. Proper measuring prevents dry or dense results and keeps batters balanced. When a recipe calls for sifted flour, measure first and then sift unless otherwise directed. To simplify your process, store flour in airtight containers with wide openings. It makes spooning and leveling easier while keeping the flour fresh and free of moisture. Warm flour for delicate cakes. Light, tender cakes depend on precise ingredient temperatures, and warming the flour slightly can make a noticeable difference. Cold flour can stiffen butter or eggs when mixed in, preventing proper aeration and creating a dense texture. To warm it gently, spread the measured flour on a baking sheet and place it in a low oven, around 150 degrees Fahrenheit, for about 5 minutes. Stir once halfway through to heat it evenly, then let it cool briefly before adding it to your batter. The mild warmth encourages smoother blending and helps maintain consistent volume in sponge or chiffon cakes. This method is especially helpful on cool days when ingredients tend to chill too quickly. You can also achieve the same effect by microwaving flour in a bowl for just a few seconds, stirring to distribute the heat evenly for perfectly light, delicate cake layers every time. Add soda to molasses bakes. Baking soda reacts beautifully with the acidity in molasses, creating rich flavor and a light, tender crumb in gingerbread, spice cakes, and cookies. The chemical reaction releases carbon dioxide, which helps the batter rise while deepening color and taste. Always mix baking soda thoroughly with the dry ingredients before adding liquids to ensure even distribution. When using molasses, a small amount of soda, usually about 1 teaspoon per cup, balances the acidity and reduces bitterness. Be careful not to add too much, as excess soda can leave a soapy aftertaste. Stirring the molasses gently into the wet ingredients allows the soda to activate gradually for consistent texture. For darker color and extra lift, use warm molasses rather than cold. If you prefer a milder flavor, substitute part of the molasses with honey or brown sugar while keeping the soda ratio balanced for reliable results. Separate cold, whip whites warm. Did you know that separating eggs while cold but whipping them at room temperature produces the best meringue volume? Cold yolks stay firm, making separation clean and easy, while warmer whites whip into higher, glossier peaks. Begin by cracking chilled eggs one at a time into a small bowl, transferring each white carefully to a larger mixing bowl. Let the whites sit until they reach about 70 degrees Fahrenheit, which helps the proteins stretch and trap air efficiently. Use a metal or glass bowl, as plastic can retain grease that prevents full aeration. Start whisking on low speed, then gradually increase to medium until soft peaks form. Add sugar slowly if making meringue to maintain structure. Avoid overbeating, as dry whites lose shine and collapse easily. If you need to speed up warming, place the bowl of whites over slightly warm water for a minute, stirring gently before whipping. Bake one test cookie first. Before baking an entire batch, it's wise to bake one test cookie to evaluate texture, spread, and baking time. Ovens vary, and ingredients can behave differently based on humidity or butter temperature. Place a single scoop of dough on a parchment-lined sheet and bake it according to the recipe. Once cooled, check whether it's too flat, dry, or pale. If it spreads too much, chill the remaining dough or add a bit more flour. If it's dense, soften the butter next time or reduce chilling time. Adjusting after one cookie saves the whole batch from inconsistency. It also lets you perfect timing for your specific oven. Mark the ideal baking duration so you can repeat it confidently. Testing one cookie first is an easy way to ensure every batch looks uniform, tastes balanced, and finishes with that perfect chewy or crisp texture you prefer. Dust chocolate pans with cocoa. When baking chocolate cakes or brownies, dusting greased pans with cocoa powder instead of flour keeps the color rich and the flavor pure. After greasing your pan lightly with butter or oil, add a tablespoon of unsweetened cocoa powder and tilt the pan in circular motions until the inside is evenly coated. Tap out the excess into the sink or a bowl to reuse later. This method prevents white streaks from forming on dark desserts and adds a subtle boost of chocolate flavor. It also creates a smooth release once cooled, minimizing crumbs or torn edges. For deep chocolate recipes, use Dutch processed cocoa for a darker tone. If your batter tends to stick, line the bottom with parchment after dusting for extra insurance. This simple step gives your cakes a professional finish and a beautifully rich appearance from top to bottom. Use ceramic bowls for batters. Ceramic bowls are ideal for mixing batters because they hold temperature well and prevent over-softening ingredients. Unlike metal, which can react with acidic foods or warm too quickly, ceramic keeps your mixtures stable and smooth. Use a medium or large bowl with rounded edges to make stirring easier and more consistent. Their slightly heavier weight also helps when whisking or folding, reducing the chance of splatter. If your recipe involves creaming butter and sugar, a cool ceramic surface maintains the right consistency for aeration. Avoid sudden temperature changes, such as placing a cold bowl in a hot environment, to prevent cracking. Before starting, wipe the bowl dry to eliminate any moisture that could alter texture. To streamline your prep, choose nesting ceramic sets so you can separate wet and dry ingredients efficiently while keeping your workspace tidy and well organized from start to finish. Preheat stone for flaky pastries. A preheated baking stone helps create beautifully crisp, flaky pastries by mimicking the intense, even heat of a professional oven. Place your stone on the middle rack before preheating the oven so it can warm gradually with the temperature. Allow at least 30 minutes of heating time to ensure full heat absorption. Once ready, transfer your baking sheet or pastry directly onto the hot stone to encourage rapid, even rise. The high surface temperature shocks the dough slightly, producing a golden, layered crust. Always handle the stone carefully, as quick temperature changes can cause it to crack. For best results, sprinkle a bit of flour or fine cornmeal on the surface before placing your tray to prevent sticking. Keeping the stone clean and seasoned properly will enhance heat retention and give every batch of croissants, puffs, or pies an evenly baked professional finish. Toast flour lightly for deeper flavor. Did you know that toasting flour brings out nutty, caramel-like flavors that can transform even simple baked goods? This technique was used centuries ago in traditional European and Middle Eastern kitchens to enhance bread and pastry depth. Spread flour evenly on a baking sheet and toast it in a 350 degrees Fahrenheit oven for 10 to 15 minutes, stirring once halfway through. The flour should turn a pale golden color and release a subtle aroma. Let it cool completely before using, as heat can alter liquid absorption. Toasted flour works wonderfully in cookies, pancakes, and shortbread, adding both color and complexity. You can also toast flour on the stovetop in a dry skillet, stirring continuously until fragrant. Store cooled toasted flour in an airtight container for up to a month to keep it ready for your next recipe that needs a touch of richness.